welcome everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Contact Lost. I do this every single time. I say podcast lost for some reason. Contact Lost is the proper name of the podcast. Welcome everyone. I am your host Tweak, making the same mistakes as always. With me, I have my trusty co-host Joker.
Hey guys.
Hi, dude. And we have our guest as well to give us all the updates about the Polish meta, the international meta, about the recent tournaments that happened in Poland. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Pumba.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be back.
Welcome. It's nice to hear your voice again. So, listen, guys. Let's start easy. Let's start without going into the nitty gritty of all the meta stuff and so on. How have you been? What have you been up to? Pumba, I'll start with you. What have you been involved in recently?
Yeah, so my last couple of weeks have been all about organizing my event that I run. I think it's becoming a yearly thing for me. So Kraków Arena, which was a singles event that happened almost exactly a week ago, 25th, 26th of March. It was, I think, the biggest singles event of the year, possibly. We are not sure here, but very possibly. So that run smoothly and went very well. Although it was definitely a lot of work, so I've spent a lot of time on that instead of actually playing the game.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you. You didn't get to actually play, right? Because you had to oversee everything happening at the event.
Yes, that's correct. TOing is a job basically.
Especially when you pair it with being a judge.
Kinda.
But actually, you wanted to make this a team event, as far as I remember. So what happened? It remained a singles, and you plan to make it a team event next year, or you're just scrapping the idea and keeping it as a singles event?
So the straightforward answer to that is I just couldn't find an appropriate venue to host a team event that I would consider to be worthy of the arena title. I just didn't want to make a 20 teams event or 4v4 20 teams only, because that's kind of small. And I just couldn't find a venue that fitted my budget and my needs, which was a problem. So I just decided to keep it a big singles event instead.
Yeah, we've been to the event last year. I remember there was plenty of space, even for 80 people coming and so on. It was great. So if you organized it in the same place, and I think I saw the pictures, so I assume it wasn't the same place. Must have been awesome.
Yep, that was the same venue. Very happy with it. I had a good deal on it. The people that I rented it from were very supportive of the event. They helped us with the furniture, like tables and stuff. So it's just a nice place to host events. Plenty of space for 80 people, but I couldn't fit 120, for example, in it. So that's the way it is, and we'll see next year. Maybe I will actually find a more appropriate space to host a team event, because that's the type of event that I definitely am more interested in. But yeah, we'll see basically.
Yeah, I guess the most important part is that you get to organize bigger and bigger events, and they actually sell out immediately.
Basically,
and
right?
that's a trend I think everywhere, because when I listen about the UKTC, that's a thing over there, but it's starting to become a thing here as well. Your tournament announced. When did you announce it? Probably before the end of the year, right? Not the previous year.
I think the initial announcement was at the end of last year, but the tickets or so went up for sale in January, I would like to say. And it's I've sold 70 out of 80 spots during 12 hours or something.
Yeah, that's mind blowing. That's unprecedented, I would say. But yeah, it's showing the game, the community, everything is going in the right direction. So yeah, fingers crossed that we continue that into the 10th edition.
I mean, so far all the events had sold out pretty quickly, and the next one that we have in April, the team event in Rybnik, has also been sold out, and quite a few people missed out on it. So it's a good trend to see.
Yeah, more and more masochistic people to play this game in the current meta. No, but no, I'm joking. It's great that it's evolving into something like this. Pumba, so you organize the tournament. Obviously, we are going to talk about the tournament in a moment, but let's talk a little bit more about you. Like, have you actually got to play anything recently? Have you been testing anything out? Anything new? Anything that you want to share with our listeners?
So, unfortunately, as I've said, I've been on kind of a hiatus for the last month or so because of the arena, because of the TOing, because of the Team Poland stuff that I've been involved in, and I've just after the UKTC, the ITT event, I've kind of taken a step back from actual play the game, which doesn't mean that I don't try to find the ways to find myself an army that I want to practice and play, and improve the list that I'm considering and stuff like this, but not much practice, unfortunately.
Okay, so I do have a question that, because we're not going to talk about the event that took place in Holland today because you weren't there, but yeah, but one thing that I remember from Joker's interview with Rude and Typhus was that Rude said that they know that the 10th edition is coming, and they purposely swapped armies so that people could practice playing something else, so that everyone is sort of prepared for the 10th edition when it actually drops. So is Team Poland doing something like that as well, or are you doing something like this as well?
Yeah, so as in Team Poland, definitely. We still have not picked our team yet. It is something that will be definitely coming in the coming months, but we are kind of delaying the process a little bit because of many reasons, like choices we have to make, which are going to be quite difficult. But we definitely have some players that we've specifically assigned a new army, for example, for some of the events coming up, for them to actually prove that they are able to swap and adapt to a new army and a completely new meta or new playstyle, for example. Some of the people that have been only good and proven themselves to be very capable in piloting a singular list or singular faction, we've kind of tried to push them onto something else to shake things up for them and prove themselves in a new setting.
Yeah, and go out of their comfort zone. That's actually quite cool.
Me myself, I've if you asked me that a year ago or a year and a half ago, I would say I'm good at one army or two armies, for example. I would consider myself more of a faction specialist. But since then, I've swapped armies so many times and adapted to them. Not all of the playstyles, but I have some that definitely I can work around. So now I would consider myself to be capable of switching armies quite on a good level in not a particularly long period of time. So I think I'm fine with that already.
I mean, I think you've proved it at last year's WTCU, although you did play a brain dead list supposedly, but it was a new army for you nonetheless.
That is correct. That was an awesome list. I really enjoyed playing with all.
No, but definitely, by doing this, by swapping the armies, be it a brainless army or not, you actually become an even more valuable asset to your team, right? Because you can, last year there was this situation where Crazy had to drop because of COVID or something like that. So a person like you naturally is able to pick something up and save the team in those dire moments when something like that happens unforeseen. So yeah, I mean, the team should be happy to have you then.
I think it's something that we've talked about previously during team composition discussions. I think having both people that can switch around in a quite short period of time and those faction specialists that are particularly amazing in certain factions they both have value, and like having a mix of those in the team is definitely something that's a strength that like builds the strength of the team.
Yeah.
And its versatility.
Okay. Joker, how about you? We haven't spoken for a while, and
No, we haven't.
yeah, and we've been to Toruń together a month ago, but since then, I really don't know what you've been up to. So, what have you been up to?
I haven't been up to much actually, because work was a bit crazy, and I really didn't have time to do a lot. I mean, I've played a few games on TTS, playing 13 War Dog spam list. I've even played some team TTS thing on Tryhard Wargaming and that kind of stuff, but that's really it. So not much to talk about, I would say. Although playing Chaos Knights is actually quite fun. I was surprised how they work in the meta, but they're okay-ish in a team setting, actually.
But are we talking about like a mix of bigger and smaller ones, or the
No,
big
no,
ones,
like I
or
said,
just the small ones?
War Dog spam, 13 little guys.
Oh, okay.
Do Chaos Knights have bigger knights?
Ha!
Is that something that actually exists?
So I'll ask this question because I find this kind of interesting and maybe informative to some people. Joker, you came third at Toruń with your Chaos Demons list with the bigger demons, and then I know that the WTC FAQ dropped. I think that basically rendered the big demons and so on, maybe not useless, but harder to use because of the pivoting thing, that you have to count movement inches when you pivot your demon, even though it's on a round base. Was that something that pushed you towards Chaos Knights, or this wasn't like the deal breaker?
It was definitely a factor because now you couldn't obviously play Greater Demons with that much success. At least I think so. And if I can't play Greater Demons, I'm not really attracted to playing demons because I really like the models, and I kind of like, I don't know if it's much of a play style, but you know, the idea of just rushing your opponent with big monsters that they either have to deal with or they'll probably get overwhelmed. So that did definitely impact the decision to switch armies again, and also I think I just got a little bit. I had little ideas for new demon lists, and especially with the models I have available for me, because obviously on TTS I can play the full Slanesh list that's now becoming popular, but if I can't put it on the table, you know, like at a GT. I don't really see the fun in that or the point in that.
Yeah, I have the same thing. Like TTS gives you the possibility to play absolutely anything that you want, but if if I then cannot take the same list and put it on the table a week later, it bums me out and I just don't do it. So I play the armies that I have.
It's one thing testing like a new unit or a triple of that unit, but almost a completely new army, that's something a bit different.
Yeah, okay, all right.
What about you? You've
me?
been away from the podcast. Now you're coming back and you're recording episodes like crazy. Yesterday, today, maybe tomorrow, who knows? Has the break paid for you? Has it given you more time to play the game itself?
It has. It has. So over the break, I mean, I stepped back because there was plenty of stuff going on, work-wise, you know, real life-wise, and so on. But it's all sorted out now. I got a new tattoo in the meantime, which is just a great feeling overall. But game-wise, I may have overdone it a little bit because I've been playing so much that maybe it was even a little bit too much. But I've been rocking and testing some Death Guard lists, and I've played like since Toruń, I've played, I don't know, 10 games or something like that. And ever since I picked up Death Guard, it was around, so like the beginning of the year, 3 months, probably around 30 games with them, with mixed results, like 50-50 victories and losses. But the highlights was like I got invited to the team TTS. I think it was Copenhagen TTS team by Sam Lemon from Australia. With Sam, I know you're listening to this, so you're a legend. So essentially, there was 4 Australian people and me. They were actually playing the game, and I was just pretending and cracking pierogi jokes all the time. But it paid off. I told them that, with that guard, I know that this is a weaker codex, so they can take and throw me under the bus whenever they need to, so that they can get more favorable games. And that's exactly what happened. So my first game was against guard. My second game was against guard. I lost the first one. Remarkably, I won the second one with Mortarion and so on in the list. And then, it was like I had a fantastic game against GSC, for example, where I lost, but it was like I was the last guy to play my game, and it was whether we win or lose the entire matchup, like 5v5 thing. And Sam came and said, we need this and this many points. And I scored this and this many points, and we just won, which was great. So we were playing for the first place in the end. And I think, well, we lost the last one, but we finished second or third, which is just an overall great feeling. And then, I decided that since, again, the same happened with me, so Mortarion needs to pay with movement for his pivots and so on, I decided to drop him from the list. And now I'm tinkering with the idea of Blightlord Terminators that everyone is discouraging me from. And to be perfectly honest, well, inspired by, all the Dark Angels list and so on, I took them, I've been toying with them, and I'm extremely enjoying them, if you can say extremely enjoying something. So I'm having great fun with them, with some, like Taliman and Plague Surgeon and Foul Blightspawn and some other things. The army scores points quite well, so I'm just having great fun now. I don't care if I win or lose. I just test stuff. I still have my Mythic Blighthaulers to test. I've been playing with the Helverins, and I think I'm going to keep playing them as well. The Death Shroud, I'm enjoying them a lot. So I keep discovering new things in the Codex, and it's just great fun overall to play it. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. So thanks for asking.
That's cool. And actually, welcome back officially to the show.
Oh, thank you.
If one could say so. And
Yeah.
a shout out to Sam as well, although fuck he's for up rolling.
Yeah, because you played him as well, right?
Yeah.
I think I saw that game with his Custodes. So yeah, that was fun. So yeah, let's move. Let's move, get along with the show. So I wanted to ask you guys about a couple of things that have been announced recently, and I think the first one, Pumba, this goes to you because you've put some extra effort into actually sorting this one out. G-Dubs have announced, I don't even know how to call it, so maybe you can tell me, but players can submit nominations for events that will become GW events or something like that. And you've done that for one of the tournaments, and it's now on the list. So can you tell us something more about that?
Yeah, so small correction. It's the tournament organizers slash judges that can apply for it, not actually players that submit the events themselves.
Yeah, okay.
So this is the golden ticket thingy. There will be the Warhammer singles championships, or like Warhammer championships, whatever it is specifically called, in Atlanta in November, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to apply, to get assigned into the tournament, is to actually get a golden ticket from one of the events. The tickets are distributed amongst many multiple independent events, which is important. Yeah, and I've actually decided amongst with many Polish TOs, from my initiative, we've decided that the Polish Team Championship, amongst many other international events, should be one of the events that is getting one of those tickets to for one person to qualify for the championships. So that's going to be happening. I was considering if I should like apply with my own event, although I think it is pretty much set and almost official. If not official, then it's I think information that is widely available that the deal is kind of that the organizer of the event is supposed to cover at least some of the costs for the person that gets the like supposed to it would be like definitely encouraged if it definitely isn't required or in any way shape or form by GW and anything like that. There isn't like a requirement for any of the events to do that, but it's like it's a thing that definitely will be done by many of those events. So that would mean that any TO that applies is like at least should cover, I guess, some of the costs like flights or hotels stuff.
And you just didn't want to do that.
And yeah, considering like the budget that our events operate at is quite a like a difficult task to gather those kinds of funds for us.
It's not a matter of wanting, unfortunately.
Exactly. Like I would love my singles events, my like the Kraków area to have that ticket. Although I think I just couldn't spend my budget on that instead of like organizing a proper event, right?
Yeah. So to our listeners, by the way, in Poland we don't have something like the UKTC official circuit with a company organizing events. Every single event that we have in Poland is organized by volunteers, essentially, by people who just want to do it, and it's every single time it's someone else from a different location or something like this. We need to, I guess, mention that.
Yeah,
so
they're
after
basically none of the events in Poland are for profit. All of them are basically run as a community service, you would say.
Exactly. So after a GT, you're left with a tenner, and with a tenner, you're not gonna fly to the US.
Basically, that's the case. So kind of instead, I've decided to gather the TEO community of Poland and try to find a way to sponsor this type of ticket and like have it be reasonable to each one of us and every one of us. So I've decided to have the Polish Team Championships to have that spot and that golden ticket of ours. And I think there will be like a way to actually sponsor this kind of expenditure amongst ourselves.
So you said one individual is getting the golden ticket.
That is correct.
So how does that work in a team of 5?
There will like I don't actually think the event has been announced officially yet. So like all the details will be definitely included in the rules pack and stuff and such. Yeah, but I think the consensus is that it will be voted on who goes by the team themselves, and if not, the captain should decide. So everybody coming to the event should be aware of that when picking their teams and their captain.
So the winning team should just choose their champion to represent our Polish community in Atlanta or wherever.
Basically.
That's still amazing.
I would love to send 5 people over, but as we've discussed, like the considering the prices, we just couldn't budget for it.
Yeah, we need to find someone who works in a company that can pay for that travel, and then it's sorted. Anyway, I also wanted to ask about something else. Obviously, everyone knows 10th edition has been announced. With a trailer where you can see some Ultramarines fighting Tyranids, which baffles me a little bit because I thought that they announced, or at least there was gossip, that there's going to be a starter set including Blood Angels and Tyranids, and then the trailer is clearly Ultramarines. But yeah, they've shown a couple of things related to the 10th edition. They're, posting reveals now almost every single day. They've shown the new data sheet, some Termagants, some new Space Marine units. So, Pumba, I'll start with you. What is your feeling towards the 10th edition? Do you think that this is looking like the edition to rule all the editions, and it's actually you're quite hopeful towards it? or do previous experiences with GW and their approach to meta and so on make you feel kind of worried?
So I definitely lean on the side of being cautious and not necessarily falling into the hype. That's definitely the wave, and the hype train is slowly starting to roll, and take all of the cold-headed thinking and rationality, uh, and just putting it on the downturn, and just everybody being excited all of a sudden. But yeah, I always am cautious about anything that GW announces. I've been burned way too many times
Yep.
before. So yeah, I'm kind of this pessimist that just I like believe everything they say when I actually see it. And so for the time being, I'm cautious. I am not overly like pessimistic. I haven't seen anything that I fundamentally disagree on, for example, or any of not none of the choices that they've made so far, for like considering the stuff like simplifying a game a little bit, or like streamlining it, or new data sheets, for example. None of those particularly like offend me, or I don't think they are bad for the game overall, or that they are bad game design. But I am definitely not all roses and just let's have this edition. One of the things that I would mention that I'm most cautious about is the promise of pre-game choices being taken away, or like being simplified. So they've specifically said, I think many times, that you will have less choices before the battle and like more choices during the battle, which
Actually, less.
which is like making me a little bit anxious about how much would you be able to customize your list. Like, list building is a huge part of 40k for me. I think that's one of the aspects where you can definitely like show your skill, show your expertise in an army, tinker with stuff to build for specific matchups, for example. It's something that drives like team events, for example, and team lists to be so interesting for me as well. That the fact that you can tinker many specific armies for specific matchups, and you can only do that because there is like a freedom and possibilities in list building and like customizing each one of your characters. So on one hand, I understand where they are coming from, that there were way too many options, most of them underused or just not necessary at all in the codexes. Like how many of the warlord traits or relics were you taking from a given codex? 2 out of 6 most of the time, or if not that. So I definitely think there is a lot of useless stuff in there. There's a lot of bloat, which can be reduced, but I'm just hopeful that they don't streamline every army to like a singular list, for example, or singular way to build an army that's optimal and that will be just solved way too quickly.
Joker, I wanted to ask you because I think it was Duda who said at some point that he is afraid that they will simplify the game too much, that it will become flat and too easy. Is this a sentiment that you share as well? And is this something that you're worried about in the context of the 10th edition, or not so much?
A bit, definitely. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with everything that Pumba said. And if you look at all those war zones, Nephilim, Snachmond, and what have you that we've had over the course of 9th, then with each like new iteration, we've kind of been stripped of list building possibilities.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the trend again with the release of 10th, and I think that's a bit unfortunate. But again, it's a little too early to tell. Obviously, the simplification, the less stratagems, the whatnot, that's like all music to everyone's ears, probably. But we'll have to wait and see.
All right. Okay, so Yeah, I'll ask. I might have asked this already, but I'll ask again because I haven't heard that from both of you. When you hear that the new edition is coming, do you still feel like playing the old version of the game, or do you just now want to wait until the 10th edition comes? And Joker, I'll start with you this time.
I've got like very little
Motivation.
motivation. Yeah, sorry. Thanks. I was lost for words for a sec. To play the game now. I mean, especially we're in this little void waiting for a new data slate, which is going to change literally nothing probably. So it's just really awkward, I would say, now playing the game, especially in the current meta, because I feel like it's, you know, with Dark Angels being sick and all that, and Astra Militarum as well. I don't own any of these armies, so it's annoying. So I'm trying to, you know, find my solace trying out Kill Team or something like that in the meantime.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Pumba, how about you?
Like, I'm completely on the opposite side of this feeling. Like, I've got so many great events coming up, especially team events, that I'm just all excited about trying new things. And I think there is I'm ridiculously optimistic for some reason, which I'm not
Which
sure
is not
what happened.
totally not you.
No, kind of not, right? But I am a little bit hopeful that there is a chance that we could have another, like, a golden age of the edition if they make good changes in the data slate. I think it is possible that they do. I think there's some things that I think we will even touch upon later that might throw a wrench into that, but I can still fondly remember the times of the end of the 8th edition, sorry, where the meta was awesome. Every tournament you went to was actually very diversified, and it was just an extremely nice time to play the game, very competitive. So I'm a little bit hoping that this can repeat, and especially because I've got so many events coming up, I'm just excited for them. So always tinkering. The Alpine Cup is coming up, then the Frontier Cup in Bratislava, and many others. Like, there will be a great tournament in Poland in June, the team tournament that Myson is organizing.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Basically, like at the end of the edition. So all the time that is that we have until the end of the edition is just filled with great events, great team events that I'm very excited for. So I think I'll just keep on trucking with that, and when the 10th hits, I am just ready to jump into it and try to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm like, I feel like I'm surrounded by only party poopers, and I'm like Christopher Waltz in Inglourious Bastards, in this scene where he sits at the table and he's like, bingo, and like very happy, gleaming, and so on and so on, because I'm so happy about the game and I just want to play it. So I just want them to make the Tyranids work again. And by work, I mean have more than 3 units in the list. And when they do that, I'll be happy, and I'll play some Tyranids definitely. Other than that, yeah, there are things that need toning down a little bit, and maybe I'll use this to segue into another topic, and we will very soon know what are those things that need toning down. So we were supposed to focus on your event, the event that you organized, the Kraków Arena or Arena. Essentially, tell us something about it, because it was an upgrade, you can say, in every aspect to the previous event, the Toruń one that we went to with Joker. And by upgrade, I mean there were more people.
That's a very subjective term, though.
I mean, yeah, I mean, Asarniu probably wouldn't be happy with hearing that, but I don't mean it in a bad way, because Toruń and Dice Crusher was an amazing event, and I don't want to take anything away from it. But yours was with twice as many people. I think you've done some improvements about the win draw lose system. So yeah, tell us about the organizational changes, maybe. Like what was different?
Yeah, so what we've done, and I've spent a lot of time considering, is should we run it as we used to always do in the pure 20-0 WTC system, or should we keep trying the win or lose, as is becoming kind of a heated topic in the community? I have decided to go with the win or lose system for the event, which was controversial and not, as some of the people were very vocal about it being a wrong choice. But I mean, the people just came and had a great time, so not a big reason to care. So especially like from my perspective, I think if you want to try and do such an experiment or like switch to a new system, I think it's very important that you actually like have a generous data set, right? What does it actually change? Should you actually tinker with it, or like is the always better? But you wouldn't find out if you haven't tried at least like those 3-4 times, I think, is the minimum. So considering all of the singles events that have been run since the beginning of the year are using the same system, I think using it for the biggest singles is the like you can gain the the most information from it. So it was valuable from this point of view. I was considering switching because the previous 2 events were run in the win or lose system, and they have been using the Swiss pairings still, which is definitely different to the way that most of the ITC tournaments run on BCP are doing it for a while now, that they are basically matching people randomly within each bracket. So each bracket constitutes like all of the people with like 1-0 record, or like 2x record, right? 3x records, stuff like this. And matching them up randomly. Instead, I have actually decided to still go with the Swiss instead of switching to that system. And that is because considering the amount of people that are going to be present at the tournament, maths just said that 20-0 scores, which we are still using in this system as a tiebreaker, are going to matter for standings. And I've seen and I've judged, as you know, many tournaments, many singles tournaments, and massive tournaments that are always many times decided by stuff like whoever scores the biggest amounts of battle points, or because of the random pairings, you could go up until round 4 or 5, or even until the top cut without playing like people from like the most skilled people, right? There's a theoretical way of a person just avoiding their worst matchup, or the people that are the higher scorers. And I just wanted to avoid that at all costs, because I think like the whole idea of a single tournament is just to find a singular best player in the room, and giving this like way of people to just dodge everything and dodge their like the best opponents in the room, like the best players in the room, is just a bad way to decide who's that best player is. So I've still decided to go with the Swiss pairings, which meant people that scored the biggest on the 20-0 system were paired against people that also scored the best in the 20-0 system within each bracket. I think it came out generally okay. I think that this was the correct choice, definitely. What I definitely was lacking, and I've came to this conclusion like after literally the first round of the tournament, is that there isn't like a proper way to add, because all of our this is a side note, but it's very important over here, that all of our events are not run on BCP, as many international events are. They are run on Tourney Keeper, which is a website. It's very capable. It's very smooth as well. It doesn't require an app or a subscription, which is why we love it. But it has some downsides, like big ones. For example, you cannot really have a third tiebreaker in any way, like to provide an official third tiebreaker, which would mean that if you score your event like I did in a like two big points for a win, 1 for a draw, and 0 for a loss, and then that 20-0 system, you wouldn't have no way of keeping track of like battle scores, actual battles points that players score. And I think it can be fixed by just doing it properly. I have already like devised a system that could work. Unfortunately, well, I wasn't fast enough to implement it in my own event, but if any of the next like singles events are run in the same system, I think I can definitely relay some information over there. Overall, the event was great. It had a very cancerous meta, which is like a glimpse into what has become of the Arcs of Omen, and the fact that it's getting a little bit solved, I think, especially in a singles environment. There are some armies that are just way out there and super dominating compared to others. And the field, after a good period of Nephilim, which was kind of stale, but was kind of balanced, just has gotten wild, which isn't particularly great.
Yeah, so to everyone who listens, this tournament that we were talking about happened on the same weekend when Manchester GT happened. And I did mention this in the previous episode when I spoke to Alex Harrison about like the discrepancy between those two events and the metas, because while in the UK the players were discovering what different flavors of Vengor launchers can do, the Polish players seem to still have been fixated with Terminators. So to anyone who hasn't listened to the previous episode, in Kraków we had 85 players, I think.
80 signed up, 76 showed up.
76. All right. So among 76 players, let me just have a quick glimpse at the stats. That's Dice Crusher. So we had nine Dark Angels, 6 other flavors of Marines, or well, undisclosed what Marine faction that was. So about 17 Marines, I think, was the number. So among those,
yeah, we had 9 Dark Angels, 4 Iron Hands, 1 Space Wolves, and 1 Planet Angels, basically.
Yeah, but the more important, interesting statistic is that these Space Marine players took 349 Terminators.
That's a number.
And that's definitely a number. And 299 of those were Dark Angels Terminators. Then we had Guard, and the numbers of Guard players doubled since Dice Crusher as well. Because we had 7, and previously we had just 3. 7 players took only 200 Kasserkin.
Yeah, because they could have taken 210.
Yep.
Yeah, like Jesus. So yeah, tell us more, Pumba. Tell us more about the meta. What was the meta going into the tournament then?
So interesting stuff also is that I think almost all of the previous Polish events have been run on strictly WTC boards for a while now, at least a year, I think. Every single event that I've been to almost has been run on those boards. I've decided to switch things up a little bit and use the Breaking Heads cup boards, which have been designed by Fred and his team from Germany, from Berlin, I believe, which is a big difference. Those boards are way different. I think they actually, they use the WTC terrain. So they use the same types of ruins with a small changes, like some of the windows, for example, are enclosed instead of open. But this type of terrain is very similar, but the layouts are completely different. And I think people generally underestimated how different those boards would play from normal WTC boards. I think they were way more consistent,
across the board, because you, as WTC boards are designed to be played in team events, of course, you would have lighter and denser boards. But in the I decided that pretty much we've played those boards for so long now that they are kind of getting stale, and also because some of the matchups are like ridiculously skewed by you getting like a dense board, and we've seen that happen, I believe, in Dice Crosser when I've talked about some like I think Vladi played Marcin in one of the final games that was basically decided on the board that they've played on, which I really didn't enjoy the sound of that in the like a singles event. So I've decided to switch it up a little bit. And I think I've decided to switch it up a little bit, but I think that like the change overall from watching the games and talking to players have been way bigger than I expected. And I think definitely bigger than many of the players expected. I think not many people actually adapted the list for this type of terrain. Not many people like tested specific deployments on it and like realized how different these boards can be played in like macro sense, which is like a little bit weird, but not even me, who have been like looking at those boards for a while now, realize how much of a difference they make. Some people were very happy with them, with the new boards, or like with the boards we used. Some were just completely done with them, and like told me they wouldn't play on them again, ever again. So opinions vary, as in all things for Decay. From my perspective, I think it was just a good change to like make people think differently about the game and just punish those that didn't manage to adapt. I think adapting to anything, especially when we are getting to approaching the end of the edition, is just a fun way to differentiate skill in some sense.
Totally. So are you going to, and that's now just pure curiosity, are you going to somehow take this information and feedback back to, I don't know, Neil or Tom or anyone from the WTC so that perhaps they could shake up their table designs a little bit, or I don't know, team up with Fred to try and convince WTC organizers that maybe some changes could be good for the game, or we're not going that far?
Yeah, sorry. Very straightforward answer to that is no, because we need to remember that WTC boards are designed to be played at WTC.
Yeah, true.
Like nobody, guys over there like doing the FAQ stuff, constant updates and stuff like this. Rules pack have a lot of thing going on, and I just fully understand that if the current pack kind of works and have been supported by the community for a long time, and it's like, I think it's gotten a little bit stale. I think it has some weaknesses in it, or like drawbacks. I think it's overall still a good, great achievement to develop such a pack, and the fact that the WTC is being officially played on 10th edition, which might completely change the rules of terrain, for example, I completely understand them not wanting to spend hours upon hours, like hundreds of hours, developing so many new maps. So the straightforward answer, I don't think it makes sense for WTC team to be developing any new maps for the 9th edition. Maybe when the 10th comes, I think this is the time where you would see such changes.
Okay. All right. So onto the tournament itself. Joker, I don't know if you can access this because like I haven't sent this to you before, but if you check up the message that I've sent to you, that's a link to Tourney Keeper.
That's something anyone can access. No
subscriptions. Obviously. But I think this link goes directly into the
Arena.
Yes, Arena, but statistics of armies with this little. No. I don't want you to look at the leaderboard. Just go into at the top into statistics and then go to score by codex. Yeah. So let's look at this really quickly. So there were 9 Dark Angels, 6 Astra Militarum, 6 Heretic Astartes, 6 of various kinds of Space Marines other than Dark Angels, 5 Eldari, 5 Votan, 5 Necrons, 4 Orcs, 3 Imperial Knights, 3 Chaos Knights, 3 Demons, and then smaller numbers of pretty much every army with even a single representative of Adeptus Mechanicus.
Just bear in mind that Heretic Astartes here also includes World Eaters, as that faction is not existent in Tourney Keeper. I don't know if all of the Heretic Astartes were World Eaters or...
No, I believe there was one CSM or something like that, and three of them were World Eaters.
Okay, good to know. So Joker, I'll start with you. Looking at these numbers, is this a surprise, or is this exactly what you expected after Dice Crusher?
Yes and no, but only because I have a feeling, just looking at the leaderboard, that a lot of players who ended up having to play a Dark Angel's Mirror actually refused to use that wonderful opportunity to spend great 3 hours of their lives, which in effect, I think, lowers the Dark Angel's average score. So they'd probably be higher. Astra Militarum is no surprise at the top. Knights of both flavors actually are a bit of a surprise to me. I'll be honest.
Why is that? Because the meta is not unfriendly to them, or?
Well, I don't really have an opinion on Imperial Knights, but for Chaos Knights, well, the most popular or most powerful matchups are not favorable for them. Although the win draw lose system does, give them a chance to like score a bit higher in the tournament, because you're not getting 20 zeros with Chaos Knights probably. It's more about getting like those 12s or 13s in most cases. So that system definitely gives them a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, and WTC tables probably are more welcoming to them, even though they need to maneuver between terrain. They are more welcome to them than, let's say, GW terrain, where against certain matchups, the Chaos Knights are purely unplayable.
They're non-existent, mate.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Pumba, how about your thoughts? Like, any surprises? Anything that took you by surprise?
Yes and no. Honestly, the broader picture, I think, was completely expected by me, especially as, of course, I was tracking the Polish meta and where people were going when approaching the event, so I know what to actually expect from the lists and people coming. You need to remember that most of the people in Poland aren't like going to each and every single one of the events, so I don't actually know if many of the people coming to Dice Crusher were at Arena, right? I would say most of them weren't, which also just literally changes how the meta like shifts.
Yeah, Southerners aren't bothered to go north of Warsaw for tournaments.
But it's
and that's a really big player base.
Yeah, we sometimes
unfortunate.
But yeah, it is difficult like to budget your time and money to travel to an event like every 2 months or a month each month. So you need to pick and choose between them. And of course, if you are going to pick and choose, you would go closer to
obviously.
Yeah, but
that's
the
why we didn't
mutual.
go to Arena.
Exactly, the feeling is mutual. Like last year, it was, I don't know, 8 or 9 hours in the car to get to the tournament. It was totally worth it, but yeah, we didn't want to do that this year.
Completely understandable, right? So those two metas are kind of also reflective of what each region, I would say, in Poland is playing. I think Arena was very competitive, and it was visible from the list itself. Like there were many extremely good players coming that are cutthroat and will just pick what's the best faction that they could possibly bring that also fits them in some way. You have had a lot of prospects for the national team playing. So yeah, generally very stacked event in that sense, comparatively, I would say. So not surprising for me to see as many Dark Angels and like Guard, but also I don't think we've seen any Necrons previously on Dice Crusher, or at least not definitely not this percentage of the player base playing Necrons.
No, there were 0 Necrons at Dice
Exactly.
Crusher.
Comparatively to like 5 at Arena. Also, you can see many local players just bringing their army of choice, just their sweetheart or the army that they are a specialist in, and doing incredibly well with them, even though you might not expect them to be super meta choices. So I think because our scene is still comparatively, especially to things like UK, small, each tournament will vary just based on the player going, not just the broader, like huge overarching international meta and what people will choose. There's a mix of people just meta chasing. There will be a mix of people just being very good at their faction and just coming to that particular tournament, for example. So
yeah, I just wanted to ask a different question. So as an organizer, I assume you've probably gone through all the lists that people submitted out of sheer curiosity to see what they are bringing and so on.
yeah, I've definitely skipped through them. Most of them, at least. I definitely didn't go super deep inside.
Yeah, in detail. But was there anything that caught your eye? Was there anything, any unusual build or anything that you were like, oh my god, he took this. Go you. I don't know, any of that sort of feelings.
Definitely Duda's list. Duda, who is a co-selector of mine, who is one of the best players in the world, period, has brought a Wraith Knight.
Yeah, like I remember listening to the episode of stats check where I heard about this for the first time and I was like, what the fuck?
Yep. He has brought a Wraith Knight. Like,
and he finished 5th.
Literally, yeah, he finished determined in the 5th position, going 4-1. Only losing 1 game to Demons. Yeah, so everybody thought he was literally trolling. And when I was asking around who has a Wraith Knight to borrow, everybody was like, "Okay, dude, very fucking funny."
Since when do you play Crusade?
Exactly. So that happened. It turns out even in this hostile meta, you can still innovate and find ways to improve your list or like find cute and different stuff to work. I think he was overly like not super impressed with it, but it definitely wasn't bad from what I've heard. It was supposed to answer some of the stuff, and it did. It struggled with other aspects, but definitely not a troll choice by any means. Definitely valid.
So, like, do you know what it did exactly, or like?
So I think the overarching, I might be like a little bit off or like completely off. I want to preface that I am not in no way like Eldari expert. I think the idea is that the Wraith Knight, first of all, it definitely can hide on some of the boards. The big WTC runes are big enough to hide him at least from some of the directions. Like he is way smaller than a regular Imperial Knight, which I've learned also. He's on a smaller base than one. He's like on a this kind of flyer base. And he's pretty slim. And he has extremely good offensive profile at things like Riemann Russes. He has strength 16, I want to say. So he's literally wounding Lehman Russes from in shooting on a 2+.
Right.
And like -5 or billion AP, D6 + 6 damage, something. Basically, a big gun that has just a very good profile in downing 8 toughness, no invuln tanks, for example. He's very capable in combat as well. He's expensive, which is his big downfall.
Yeah, 440 points. Jesus.
Yeah, he's way too expensive, I think.
That's Mortarion for you.
Exactly. But he definitely did some stuff. He was very useful in many of the games, from what I've heard. I think the biggest complaint was that he didn't fit this kind of MSU, hiding behind ruins, I don't want to ever be shot style of list, and just kind of gave like the anti-tank weaponry in opponent's list a target, that could be just everything could be pointed at him, because everything else was supposed to be hiding behind ruins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I know for a fact, because I played against a Wraith Knight during one of the tournaments here in the north of Poland fairly recently, that it's a pretty good distraction card effects, that it works like a sponge. I think it has damage reduction as well. So you know, once if you want to commit to, I mean, if you want to kill it, you have to commit to it, because he's not that easy to actually take out unless you have, you know, crazy shooting, like, I don't know, hammerheads or something.
Yep.
But
definitely
overall,
is a slouch.
yeah, so for my Death Guard, you know, I charged it with Typhus, with Destro Terminators and so on, and yeah, suddenly damage 1. He was a tough nut to crack. I managed that eventually, but you know, at a cost. So yeah, definitely not an obvious choice, but a cool one. So do that definitely gets the, you know, cool points for bringing it. So when we look at and I'm specifically going to say, when we look at the top 11, not top 10, there is a good reason for that, because Asarnil came 11th with his Death Guard, and I think, you know, for 76 players, that's a nice feat to achieve with a Death Guard, especially that he came with essentially what we can call a Plague Marine spam. Then kudos to him for doing that. So we have Death Guard in 11, then we have Custodes, Chaos Demons, Guard, Necrons, Imperial Knights, Duda with his Wraith Knight, Dark Angels, Attic with World Eaters, then Astra Military Guard again, and number 1 Kruker with his Dark Angels. Congrats to him. Joker, any surprises here? Like, is this what you sort of expected to see? Dark Angels first, Guard second, World Eaters third? Is that representative of the general meta, or does anything in here catch your eye and catch you by surprise?
No, I think it is representative. So it's, you know, it's solid players with solid armies that have prevailed in the tournament, especially when looking at the top 3. Well, even if you look further, then almost every one you've mentioned here, it definitely fits. If any surprises, then I think well done to the Kraków locals. Senel with Imperial Knights in 6th and Siraf with Necrons in 7th.
Totally.
They kind of defy that meta trend that we have here, but other than that, it's, you know, no surprises again.
Kraków Smoke Brigade prevails. 3 of the top 10 spots taken by our team.
Yeah,
I'm
they
very
had
happy
the
about that.
advantage of the stadium.
Exactly.
Yeah, home advantage.
Exactly.
Exactly. So maybe let's have a quick look before we, you know, before we finish the episode. Let's have a quick look at the top 3 armies. So Adek switched from. Oh, he's been playing like plenty of armies this last year or this edition. I know he's been playing Tyranids. From after Tyranids, he's been experimenting. He also played Tau. World Eaters now. Pumba, can you tell us something interesting about that list?
It actually has a couple of interesting choices. Besides all of the obvious stuff like you spam Berserkers, you take a Rhino, and it's about 8-bound because 8-bound good. It has 2 interesting choices. First one is bringing a direct crawl drop pod.
Not very often seen in Poland.
Exactly. So the Forge Worlds drop pod. I would be lying to you if I knew exactly what's the idea here, besides bringing things closer so they get killy.
I think you can bring plenty of things in that.
Well,
Exactly.
You can
That's the
increase the alpha strike, right? Because without it, you have 2 units of 8-bound, potentially an opponent's deployment turn 1, and then with the Dreadclaw drop pod, you get that big unit of Zergs in as well with a 3d6 drop lowest charge on turn 1.
Exactly.
And it shoots. As far as I know, it has some.
I think it has some Mortal Wounds output even. I think it's very decent. And it's definitely something to catch people off guard. And the other interesting choice is bringing a single War Dog Executioner. to have
with Mirror of Fate.
with Mirror of Fate, which is, I believe, regaining a CP.
Yeah.
It is. Yep.
And you roll for every like CP,
CP
points
spent, yeah.
by your enemy,
By your
which gets you quite a lot of CP if
Exactly.
You know.
When in an army with great, absolutely amazing like stratagems, right?
Mhm.
So I think the idea here is quite simple: to have any shooting, so you just don't get screened out. But I also know that from Arik himself, that this was basically a wrong choice in his opinion. Yeah, that it didn't provide any like actual threat and kind of just diluted the list and made it kind of meh. So
Yeah,
I think he's dropping that from now on.
I think it's like 165 points that definitely can be invested into something else. So
He
Exactly.
probably profited more from the CP region than the actual shooting of it. Probably.
Right. So definitely some interesting choices. Is not your cookie cutter, all of the Exalted 8 bound, all of the 8 bound, a lot of Zerkers, Lord Avocado, let's go.
Mhm.
There are some interesting stuff in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Kudos for innovating again and trying to think outside of the box. And I see that he only his only loss was to Kruker, who actually took the win.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, awesome. Very, very well done. Then in the second place we have Druzik with Guard. Anything specific about this list, or is it just your standard typical Guard?
I actually don't think there is a single standard typical guard list. I think
Really?
there's like just legitimately. I think the stuff that we've been testing at the beginning of the codex, stuff that we are some of our players are playing now, stuff that is played at like in the rest of the world, like in the UK for example, is completely different. It has definitely some of the things in common. You are always bringing 30 Kasserkin. You have the Lord Solar. You have like some scouts, sentinels, or like sentinels, or like Chimera. You're always on 9 mortars, right? Some of the choices are just default, but there's a lot of like room to tinker the lists and do it make it do what you want to do. So, for example, Druzik, as many of the players slowly have been adapting over here, is playing a role called Dorn, which is something that definitely is not visible outside of Poland, at least, or not in the biggest American UK events. They instead, especially in the UK, from what I know, are focusing on the armored sentinels and other like scout sentinel stuff with plasmas because they have all the keywords on this planet given to them for some godforsaken reason.
Some reason, yeah.
Exactly, because why not? So this list doesn't rely on sentinels. Instead, brings the big boy, some lemon russes, but not like extreme amount of them. It's
What
been
the
tinkered with.
heck does a Death Corps Marshal do?
It's a Castellan that costs 50 points in the codex, but it's from Ford World, and GW forgot that it exists, so it's just a same model, but because it's from Ford World and its points haven't been updated, it does exactly the same job for 15 points less.
So 35 points for a little dude.
For a dude that gives 2 orders, yes, as the same kinds of orders that the not the commissar, the Castellan, I think it's called, Kaiden Castellan does 2 orders, 50 points. This guy is exactly the same, but it's 35.
All right. By the way, to everyone who's listening, we'll post a link to the lists in the description. So if you want to check out what has been rocking the Polish tournaments recently, then definitely you'll have an opportunity. So don't worry if you don't know what the lists contain. So that was second place. That Guard, definitely well done. Again, win, win, draw, win, win. Congrats.
Yeah,
That's a nice
undefeated
feat.
still.
And then our second, but first, undefeated player, Kruker with his Dark Angels. Again, I don't know if I dare to ask it, but standard list, or has there been any innovation in this list? well.
I think this is the list that Crooker has been playing for a while now. We initially tinkered with some of the ideas here, like together when he was preparing for Winter Team Championship in Croatia, and he was given the role of playing Dark Angels. He stuck to them, to our downfall in Kraków, because he's been rolling with the same list almost every tournament.
Mhm.
And it's a hideous manifestation of the 42 or so, I think it's 42 Terminators just rolling slowly
Mhm.
to your doom and trying not to die. Their list is incredibly simple, but as proven extremely effective
Mm.
at what it does. And it definitely has weaker and better matchups. It's extremely stable. And could lose to some of the stuff that it came up against, but didn't, which proves
Mhm.
that Kruger is a good pilot, and the list can actually work extremely well. Mm.
I think he had no problems transitioning because he used to be a Tyranid player. So I think he is just your typical transhuman enjoyer. Basically, he
It's
switched
kind of, yeah. You could say
from
that.
one army with stupid rules to another army with stupid rules. So yeah, good on you,
Kind of the
Crooker.
thing. Kind of the thing. Not gonna lie.
This time just with a better save because the base 2 up 0+ in cover. I
Yeah,
mean,
although a lot slower, like, right? Which
yeah,
can
true
be
that.
definitely abused by some of the armies.
True that, but if you have like 40-something Terminators versus 27 Warriors, yeah, you don't care about speed that much because you're on the table anyway. But yeah, I mean, definitely if I had to choose between like Alex Harrison's list, Space Wolves, and this one, I would go for Space Wolves. Not only because I love them, but because it seems like there is variety in that list. And this one, after playing 1, 2, 3 games with this, I would probably fall asleep. But maybe that's just me.
Nah, that's not just you. That's
Yeah,
everybody
I
on
thought
this
so.
planet.
I thought so, exactly.
Although, yeah. So I think it's worth mentioning what's not present here, right?
Right.
Like the big elephant in the room. There are no Desolation Marines in any of the lists, I believe. Not a
Yeah, what
single
happened?
Desolation Marine.
Are
I
we just
think
so
people
behind?
are just slept on them, literally, because I've been tinkering with them for at least like 2 weeks now, something like that, way
Mhm.
before the arena at least. I haven't been testing much, as I've mentioned, but definitely they were on my radar after I've realized that, hey, I can put them into Iron Hands and they are quite good there. And then their Dark Angels like give them bonuses as well and stuff like this.
And if you think
Uh,
Space Wolves also make them benefit from different kinds of stuff like keen
Yeah,
senses and
keen
so on.
senses are just absurd on them. That's correct. So I think not many people just realize how effective they can be because, and I think it's been a theme, to be perfectly honest. Like when they came out, I didn't see anybody just say, "Oh my God, these are gonna just completely break the game." Everybody was kind of like, 35 points for an intercession with a gun, bruh.
Yeah,
What
people just didn't connect the dots that there
kind?
is things like Codex Warfare exist and Devastator Doctrine exists, and then they exist and Vanguard launchers exist, and
True.
I can't help but keep imagining that they shoot eels, like because Vanguard just sounds very much like the Polish name for the fish, and I just I just cannot take my thoughts away from that.
Węgorz launcher.
Exactly.
Bruh.
Just thinking of it makes me
Yeah,
chuckle.
shooting electric eels.
Exactly. That's exactly what they do. So, Joker, do you think that, after this great revelation of last weekend, the UK being essentially dominated by top 4, as we said, I think pre-show or maybe during the show, 48 Desolators among 4 players, Polish players only now realizing what they do and how they do it. Do you think that this will be meta defining now, or not so much with the balanced data slate coming out?
Well, I'm yet to see posts on the Polish mini market want to buy Desolation Marines.
Yep.
So I guess we're going to come to that. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure people will start tinkering with them. I mean, if a list, a unit performs really well at a big tournament, then regardless of where it was or where a player is, someone will definitely look into it.
All I want to say is Crooker literally for the first place won the new Space Marine box with 10 of them.
Hmm.
Literally taking the first place.
So one player definitely has them now. We'll
I
see
don't know
what
what you mean. I've got 20 like printed up already.
Holy shit.
That's all I'm gonna say. Although I think there's look, I think they are extremely good. I think they are broken good in many of the aspects. And I think they improve specific matchups a lot. I think guard matchup is like completely fucking
Oh yeah.
switched around by them. I think Crooker's list, like his winning list, the 42 Terminators, wins the mirror against Desolation Marines. I think they are completely useless there. So if you want to tinker into a mirror, which you might actually want to do, are they the best choice?
So listen. So I'm now sitting. One of the things that happened recently in my life was like the renovation of my room, and I have now like a man cave with nice shelf with minis and so on. And my Tyranid Harpy is like immediately staring at me from above my computer, and I'm thinking now, isn't the introduction of Desolation Marines like an invitation to bring back flyers which start off the table and then appear somewhere, can catch an angle, and actually get rid of, if they have good shooting, like I don't know, the Harpy, the bomber, the Tau bomber, or something like that. They can pretty much deal with Desolators. Isn't that like a natural counter for them?
I disagree. There are two reasons. I think the first problem, you're not starting on the board, which means you are coming from reserves, which means you instead of flying behind a big ruin, which those non-line of sight guns, let's remember, are positioned behind. Yeah, they will be just very hard to catch an angle for them, like towards them.
Yeah, for a player that has a brain and will hide his Desolators, yeah, definitely.
And a thing that completely like amplifies that is the fact that if you try to catch an angle, them you would probably be presented with a very tight angle, maybe being like within 12 inches of them, which means you are taking a lot of very like dark lance shots to your face from Auspex scan.
Yep. Yeah, I keep
Which is
forgetting that Auspex scan exists.
Yeah, which is a problem. Like a Harpy can maybe survive it, but you're not sure if it does. Like a Tau flyer would never survive, I think, a full salvo from them.
Yeah.
So it's a sticky situation.
All right. So like, does it come naturally that when you hear about Desolators, you also think about counters to them?
Of course.
And then, all right. So, and this is a question to both of you. I don't know, Joker. I don't know if you've put much thought into countering Desolators, but what would your idea be like, or what would any of your armies do when facing this? And you play a nice little selection of Chaos armies. You have Drukhari. Does any of your armies have tools to deal with a unit like that?
Well, Drukhari just start crying, as they do with any indirect fire, pretty
Not
much.
incorrect.
Then what do we have? Well, Knights might not be the worst, but I mean, they can take the Castellan launchers, I guess, but they can't really do anything about Desolation Marines in hiding. which is obviously a problem. And then for demons, I guess it's just rolling 3-ups, playing pure Zinch is probably the best you can do.
Yeah.
Trying to survive. So yeah, I was trying to think of something within the armies that I have, obviously, to begin with, and well, I'm not having any luck so far.
Like legitimately, I don't think knights care that they exist. Why would they care? If you are not, so they are not all-purpose units. Like they are not. They don't have this magical profile that, for example, Hiveguard did. They aren't good into everything, is what I'm saying. They don't have this like non-line of sight shooting is a complete fucking cancer on this game, and it's been for a while, and it's been gone, and everybody was happy with it. Now it's back. It's still a problem, as visible by this showcase that a singular unit can just break the meta suddenly. For example,
We've got 2 units doing that.
kind of right.
Yeah, because you still have to remember about mortars
Yep.
ignoring everything being a thing.
Exactly. So now that
I have a Plagueburst crawler. Bleh.
Go
Oh.
away.
There's big
what was I actually talking about? About them.
Knights.
So there are armies that just don't care about them existing. I don't think. Like knights would, if you are picking Desolation Marines for 35 points and they are still intercessor bodies and you're only using their heavy lances like profile, the super crack whatever profile, I don't think they're actually very worth it. You have, especially when you take into consideration the fact how inexpensive Marines are right now. 2 of these guys will cost the same as a speeder tornado with a multi-melta and a assault cannon.
So,
Right. So if you
Pumba,
are
have you-
actually not, yeah, go
have
ahead.
you listened to the Fireside?
I have listened to like half of the episode because I had to do some work at work.
So sometimes you have to. So essentially, they have Brian's site.
Yep.
And Brian goes into his games and
Yep.
talks how he played against Guard with 9 tanks, I think. And he said that basically the Desolators are like the Devastators. They have all heavy weapons. They shoot indirect. They also have this. I don't know what the name of that is. I don't care. But the thingy that allows one guy to shoot with like a 2+, which means that it's indirect hitting on 3+. And Brian said something along the lines that every single turn.
It's indirect hitting on a 2+, because he has +1 to hit and +1 ballistic skill.
Even better. Even better.
Because it's bad.
And this dude shoots at dark lamps. And then also if they die, they shoot on death. So like you don't really want to kill them because they shoot you. And if you don't kill them, they shoot you. So Brian said something along the lines that he was able to pop a tank a turn with a single unit, and then he had plenty of redundancy to also kill like infantry or something, but there weren't enough targets to point the guns at, so he pointed the guns at the tank as well. So
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
As we've discussed, they are amazing into certain matchups. And I think Guard is the matchups where they shine the most out of everybody, which is very like flashy in a sense, right? Because Guard are so good. And because they are so good in that matchup, they are absolutely game breaking, right? Because
yeah, but you said, knights don't care about them. How are toughness 8 knights different to toughness 8 tanks? They have invulnerable save 5-up. You can boost it to 4, but only on a 1 knight. So
right,
how are they that much different?
So maybe I've worded this poorly. What I mean is that in a Marines versus Knights matchup, Desolators are not a problem. Everything else is a problem.
True.
I think you lose that matchup literally by default against many of the Space Marine armies, and like Desolators are not making that matchup better for you. The fact that they are a choice in Space. We are now not even discussing like the Space Marines, but the unit itself. And I think this unit is so amazing because it just fits into a broken army. Fundamentally broken. Like they don't need to. They are not now a choice that you need to like spend a lot of time thinking about if I want to slot them in, because they will improve that matchup. Or but on the other hand, I could take other stuff instead of them to improve my other matchups, because you have so much stuff and so much free war gear everywhere, and your secondaries are so broken, and the whole army is broken. You can take this unit that is just so amazing into certain matchups, but doesn't actually isn't optimal in others.
Yeah.
Knights will struggle against, if you take a list without Desolators and with other stuff, Knights would have a worse matchup into that if the Desolators were replaced, right? But it doesn't particularly matter.
Okay, all right, now I understand. Okay, listen, we've been talking for a very, very long time. So I think I'm going to drive this episode to a close, and I'm going to do that with just a single question to every single one of you. Joker, let's start with you because you've been awfully quiet in the last couple of minutes. What are your wishes for the balanced data slate? Like, what would you like to see, and should it affect your armies? Should it tone down other armies? What are you yearning for?
I haven't really given it much thought, because with the now official announcement of 10th, I really don't expect a lot will be done. So what I would like to see is definitely toning down some of the biggest bullies. So like the Terminator's transhuman toned down to a mini transhuman, for example. Codex Warfare giving 1 victory point instead of 2 for each kill. And those are the first things that come to mind. Other than that, I'm not really sure. I don't really have any ideas on how to tone guard. Oh, obviously, Kaskin stratagem for dealing mortal wounds. That should be 6 in total. Come on, not 6 on every unit. I think that's it, really.
Do you miss your Drukhari?
Yeah. I keep forgetting I owned them.
Nobody misses Drukhari. It's a lie. It's a ruse.
I think Anthony Vanilla does, but he found new love now. So
I mean, I've also been having
complete fucking
enough
bullshit.
fun.
They are
with
not coming back. Just burn
Shut
those
up
fucking
already.
figurines. There's not an army I hate more in this game, by the way.
Wow. Okay. Joker, any last sentences?
Nah.
Nah, screw it. All right, Pumba, your take then, and we'll close with that.
Yeah. So what do I want for the slate? Just remove Codex Warfare from the game. So just make it score 1 point, as Joker previously mentioned. It basically kills the secondary, which is fine. Nobody needs a secondary, to be honest, in their lives, because it's completely ass. And I say that, as you well know, as a Space Marine player. Next up, what the problem with dataslate and the upcoming one is that there's a very good possibility they will not tinker with points, and I think points is where they've broken Marines the most, which is going to be very difficult to fix that up by just changing the rules. I actually am not a fan of changing the transhuman to a mini transhuman on Terminators. I think it doesn't do basically anything. It basically makes them toughness 5 or something effectively, which is nothing almost. And I'm not a very a super fan of. I think they should go pay for like Thunderhammers or Storm Shields, and especially Cyclone Lancers. I think that would be better. I think there's a lot of stuff there. It's good. I honestly have no idea how to fix the Terminators besides that, with just rules and points. The Kasserkin, as previously mentioned, you just fuck them and no mortals. Maybe you shouldn't count the sick. Basically do them the Votan treatment, so that the 6s to hit don't.
Yeah,
the 6s
that's
to.
a good point. I forgot that.
Just don't. Why we've been through this a lot of times. So
And
what
remove
we've-
transhuman for them. How are they transhuman? What's transhuman about them?
That's the whole.
They're the most human humans of all humans. How are they? How are they
like
transhuman?
a human from Cadia and
Exactly.
Space Marine. What the fuck? So those two things in particular, I think, should be gone. Other than that, I think I am 90% sure Desolation Marines will not be touched, which is a shame, but super not expecting that to happen. I think still mortars should go. I think nobody wants any line of non-line of shooting shooting in the game. I think it's just bad. Just don't.
Yep.
We can do without it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think then guards needs to find other way. I think they will be completely fine. The codex is really good, but some of the side stuff is just backbreaking.
Yep.
Uh,
And one thing from me, I would actually like Games Workshop to look at all the secondaries that allow you to that are not capped at like 5 per turn or something like this to introduce that cap, because some armies just have it way too easy scoring points against other armies that don't have that.
Yeah.
So
I would actually want to see more buffs, to be honest, than nerfs. I think you should touch upon some of the stuff at the top, but especially buff some of the stuff at the bottom.
Yeah.
Which is going to be the problem, because the stats that they are presenting in like Multiwatch articles are just ass, and they are only looking with rates, which is bad. And it's been discussed to oblivion right now why it is bad, but it doesn't look promising that this is the case. But yeah, buffing up, like bringing stuff from the depths of the meta, like just buff, for example, Thousand Suns. They are quite a fun army, right? They've been so good with the flamers, and they are completely ass now. It just happens that.
Or sisters that don't exist
Exactly.
in any sort of tournaments, I think.
Exactly. There are so many
barely.
armies that are just super struggling, like Death Guard, for example. Some buffs over there would be grand. I think just cutting the top off would not make some of the bottom armies better and competitive for the remainder of the edition. And I think it would be very, as I've mentioned, super nice to have them be competitive until the end of the edition and have like a nice cruise until 10th. By the way, if I have one hot take, I think Dark Angels are gonna just get wiped to the ground, like completely fucking destroyed in the side, and then the Lion comes out, and then they are broken until 10th. That's my hot take.
Yeah,
that's my
I think so as well. We'll see, because again, G-Dubs tends to nerf things to the ground. Like we've seen so many fall from a very high horse. So probably that's going to happen again. And yes, and then Lion will bring them back to life.
So have you seen the blog profile?
I have. It's insane. Anyway, we finished on this nice note before going into Dark Angels again, that every army should be given a chance, and I think we'll conclude with that. Well, fingers crossed that GW comes to the same conclusion, that they buff up some armies, tone down but not kill entirely other books and codexes and armies and units and so on, and that we can enjoy the end of this edition like we enjoyed the end of the previous edition. With that in mind, I thank our listeners for lasting through the episode. I thank you too for your insights. As always, it's been an amazing pleasure to listen to the two of you and to contribute myself. To our listeners, if you like what we do, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. This helps us grow. This helps with the algorithm. I mean, you know the drill, but we just cannot repeat it enough. We have great ideas for the future. We want to bring more content to you, not only in audio, but also maybe potentially in video and in writing. I actually am redacting and editing an interview with my son about his trip to France, where he played at a French tournament. The interview is ready. It just needs to be posted online, and some pictures need to be added. So that will be posted probably today. It's Friday evening today, so either today or tomorrow. So visit our website. The link will be in the description of this video, and do have a read and let us know what you think about this form of posting content. And then, yeah, just stick around for our amazing guests, us hosts, and yeah, thank you, Pumba. Thank you, Joker. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me. As always, super glad to have you. And nice you're back, by the way. I think it was a great sadness for all of the international community to have you
Aw.
gone for so long.
Aw, that's too sweet. But yeah, okay, I'm back. Before it gets too teary. Thank you both. And until next time.
Goodbye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye-bye.